Hi class, welcome back. In this mini lecture, we are going to do an introduction to emotions.
So we're going to start with emotions. So first off, what exactly are emotions? You could think of emotions as mental states or feelings associated with our evaluation of our experiences. So basically, you have an experience and you evaluate that experience. And whatever mental state or feeling associated with that evaluation, that is what we call an emotion. And there are different theories on what causes our emotions, but there's lots of support for which emotions we have. So, for example, there's a lot of support for having the emotions of sadness, anger, contempt, disgust, surprise, fear, and also happiness. Emotions are usually temporary. They could also be positive, so for example, happy. They could be negative, for example, sad. Or they could be a mixture of both. So for example, bittersweet. So it's exciting to graduate from high school, but at the same time you might be sad to leave behind friends and experiences. Emotions can also affect your thought process because emotions can direct where your attention goes. So for example, when you're experiencing a positive emotion, when you're happy, that widens your attention. So it makes it easier to take in more information and think more broadly. On the other hand, when you are experiencing a negative emotion, for example, when you're really stressed out about something, this is going to narrow your attention. So let's say that you're worried about an exam. You're really stressed out about that exam. You may have a really hard time thinking about or focusing on anything else. And finally, emotions can motivate behavior. So for example, people might start a scholarship in honor of someone who has passed away, or maybe forming an activist group or something. So real brief, some biological aspects of emotion. We have the limbic system, which is important to emotional functioning. And the amygdala is one brain region that is part of the limbic system. The amygdala is important for learning emotional associations, recognizing emotional experiences, and perceiving emotionally charged words. So basically, the amygdala registers emotions, and both negative and positive emotions. And as we'll see later, it especially registers fear. Facial expressions are very important for expressing emotions. And when we control our facial expressions, or when our facial expressions are voluntary, we're using what's known as the pyramidal motor system. But when we have genuine facial expressions, so facial expressions that cannot be controlled, these are created by the extrapyramidal motor system. So what do I mean by voluntary versus involuntary? Let's make believe that someone tells you a joke, and you genuinely feel that that joke is funny, and so you laugh. You do not voluntarily laugh. You're laughing involuntarily because you think that that joke was funny. On the other hand, perhaps someone is taking a picture of you and they ask you to smile, and you're voluntarily smiling. So think about this. If your pyramidal motor system is damaged, then you can't purposefully smile. So someone's trying to take a picture of you and you can't smile in that picture if your pyramidal motor system is damaged. However, as long as your extrapyramidal motor system is not damaged, then you could still smile if that smile is genuine. Alright, so some theories about what causes emotions. And first we're going to talk about the discrete emotions theory. According to this theory, humans experience only a small number of emotions, so few distinct emotions. And according to this theory, these distinct emotions may combine in a complex way. So these distinct emotions are thought to serve evolutionary functions. They're biological. So for example, when we're scared, we open our eyes really wide. And that's evolutionarily adaptive. It enables us to spot danger a lot better. According to this theory, we have 7 primary emotions. These emotions I actually already mentioned earlier. happy, disgust, fear, sadness, surprise, anger, and contempt. And they're known as primary emotions because they're biologically based. And these primary emotions can combine to form secondary emotions. So for example, the primary emotion of fear plus the primary emotion of surprise leads to the secondary emotion of alarm. There's actually good support that we have these 7 primary emotions and that they are biologically based, as we will see in just a few moments. So we also know that we do have different physiological responses depending on the different emotion that you're experiencing. So for example, when you're angry, you experience an increase in heart rate. We also have different parts of the brain being activated depending on the emotion being experienced. So for example, when a person experiences fear, the amygdala is highly active. And when a person experiences anger, the frontal cortex is highly active. But I do want to note that multiple brain regions participate in all emotions. So it's not that the amygdala is the only brain area activated during fear or the frontal cortex being the only brain region activated during anger. We have multiple brain regions. It's just that the amygdala is most activated during fear and the frontal cortex is most activated during anger. All right, so here we have once again the primary emotions. Anger, fear, disgust, surprise, happy, sad, and not on here is contempt. And remember that these 7 primary emotions are biologically based. And if they're biologically based, then it's thought that they're universal, meaning we see them across culture. If they're universal, if we see them around the world, then they're probably innate, meaning we're born with the ability to feel these emotions and express these emotions, and that these emotions are not based on the environment. So here is a video clip of a research study done to test whether or not these emotions are universal or they're environmental.
We can tell how other people are feeling just by looking at them. When someone is happy, they smile. When they are sad, they frown. But where do these facial expressions come from? Are they learned or are they innate? David Matsumoto studied these questions for years in his Culture and Emotion Research Lab at San Francisco State.
Facial expressions are so important because they are part of a nonverbal communication system that we all have that we use extensively when we communicate with others. Facial expressions comment on the words in many different ways so that you know that a person may be joking or they may be very serious. I think this is why we have emoticons in email. Facial expressions are very difficult to study in the lab because when people are in a lab, they're watching what they're doing. And so oftentimes what you get in the laboratory is not what occurs in real life.
David realized there was a better setting to study expressions, the 2004 Summer Olympic Games. It just so happened he was headed there anyway, as a researcher for the International Judo Federation.
And the Olympics is the perfect place to do one of these studies because it's real life, it's naturalistic, it's very emotional.
He then turned his eye and the camera toward the Paralympic Games.
By studying the expressions of the blind athletes in the Paralympic Games, and then comparing them to the expressions of the athletes in the sighted, the regular Olympic Games, we can tell whether they have the same expressions or not.
And the result?
Those who won showed signs of true enjoyment. Those who lost showed sadness or distress or fear or anger. And they were the exact same facial muscle movements that occurred in both the sighted and the blind. They occurred at both exactly the same times in exactly the same ways. And they differentiated winners and losers in exactly the same ways. And so the findings were amazingly similar. So the study of the blind athletes in the Paralympic Games showed us conclusively that the source of facial expressions of emotions must be resident in some innate biological program that we all have, that we're born with, and that we have from birth. And that everybody all around the world, as long as you're a human, has that. And I think that that's a very powerful message that this study shows.
So the next time you see someone smile or frown, remember, you are seeing an expression of their DNA.
Alright, so it is a little far-fetched to say that your emotions are an expression of your DNA. However, this research study did show us that the same exact emotions are shown in the same exact ways between blind and seeing people. And these blind people have never seen these emotions being expressed because they are blind. And so therefore we know that the source of facial expressions of emotions are innate. They're from birth and they're not based on the environment. Certain components of facial expressions allow us to distinguish when someone is showing a genuine emotion. So look at these two pictures. It's the same person smiling. Which one of these smiles do you think is genuine and why? I'll give you a moment here. All right, can you guess? The Duchenne smile, the smile on the right, is the genuine smile. And the fake smile is the Pan-American smile. So what do you see the difference here in the face? How can you tell that the picture on the right is a genuine smile and the one on the left is a fake smile? So we see in the genuine smile and the Duchenne smile that there are contractions in the muscles around the eyes and the muscles that are raising the lips and the cheeks. So with the Duchenne smile, you see that the mouth and the eyes are both smiling. But with the Pan-American smile, the fake smile, you see that the mouth is smiling, but the eyes are not. So if you want to test your ability to see whether or not you can distinguish between Pan-American and Duchenne smiles, I gave you a link above where you can click on it and you'll see a bunch of pictures of people and you'll guess whether or not it's a fake or genuine smile.
All right, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.